Hey guys, it's Bear. It is Tuesday, March 31st, 2020, and it is the Trans Day of Visibility. I did a video responding to some questions asked by friends on Facebook, and this is part two of responding to some of those questions. For Trans Day of Visibility, I am wearing my Trans Pride t shirt with my little Trans Pride dragon, and I call him Transosaurus Rex, even though he's a dragon. And one of the questions on this list that actually did get asked is, what is your favorite dinosaur? Well, my favorite dinosaur are dragons. If you look behind me, there's a whole bunch of dragons on the shelves there, and they're not even all the dragons that I own. It's a cheat answer. Dragons aren't dinosaurs, but I really, really like dragons, and I have two of them tattooed on me. So thanks for asking that question. I actually thought about that question a little bit, even though it's a throwaway question. And looking back to like second grade, like 7 or 8 years old, when I learned about dinosaurs, I remember really liking the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And I was like, why did I like the Tyrannosaurus Rex so much? And in some way, I remember associating the T Rex with masculinity. So in some way, it actually did lead back to my transness and my gender identity, even though it's a throwaway fun question. So thanks for asking that one. But that's the answer. I like the T Rex and I like dragons. So, but what I really wanted to respond to was the question, how did you pick your name? And I've been wanting to do this video anyway, so thank you very much to the person that asked that question. I wanted to do it not so much so people would know why I picked my name, but to give advice to other people for when they're picking their names. I see a lot of people in the trans Facebook page that I co-admin with a couple other people. I see a lot of people struggling with picking a name. And they tend to turn to other people and say, what name do you think works for me? And that doesn't work. We actually, as admins, always kind of chime in on that just looking at a picture of your face and asking people, what name works for me, it doesn't really work that way. Nor does it really have anything to do with your interests. So liking dinosaurs and liking baseball and stuff like that, that doesn't define how you want to present yourself to the world. Because if you think about it, the first thing you do is you introduce yourself with your name. It's a very, very personal thing, and it's not something other people can choose for you. So what I always recommend, and why I wanted to talk about this, is look at a couple of different things in your life. Is there a relative that you really admire? Is there somebody else that you really admire? Is there somebody that you really look up to as far as a historical figure or a sports figure or an author or what have you? Do they have a name that interests you? Do they have a character that interests you as far as authors or movies go? There's nothing wrong with that. If you actually look at it, a lot of parents choose names that way. So there's really nothing wrong with saying, I really like this character, I'm going to use their name for my name. Your parent might have actually done that. My birth name was actually based on not the character in a movie, but like the actress who played her. And my dad really liked that name, and he picked my birth name from that. So there's nothing wrong with looking at those outside influences. Is there a relative that you really admire? That's part of how I came up with my first name, which is Nicholas. My preferred name and my nickname for a very, very long time is Bear. And that is still how I introduce myself, and it's still how I prefer people to address me. But because I have a first name and a middle name, I tend to get called both, and now people introduce me as Nick, and some people know one, some people know the other, and that's fine. I just kind of caught myself in a weird catch-22, and whatever, it's fine. So Bear happened, it was a Harry Potter spoof that my friends and I were all into. I'm really into fantasy and Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and stuff. And there was this spoof called Wizard People Dear Reader, and all the characters had alternate names. and one of them was Ronnie the Bear. My birth name ended in an IE sound. We'll just use Nick instead because I'm not telling you my birth name. Please don't ask. But my friends started calling me Nicky the Bear. And then Bear just stuck. And I started introducing myself as Bear. When I came out, that was one of the first things that I did. Was I started asking me people, please stop calling me my birth name. Please call me Bear. It's my preferred name. And then I slowly used that as a means to come out. Nick was my grandfather's nickname. His name was Richard Nichols, and he served in the Army during World War II, and they didn't call him Nichols, they called him Nick. And I always liked that name. Ironically, I grew up thinking that my grandfather was named Nick Nichols, and, like, why would you name your kid that? I didn't find out later until, he died when I was really young. But I always really admired him, and I always really loved the name Nicholas, which brings me to the next part of choosing your own name. If you have grown up aspiring to have children, you have probably thought about names for them. And that was one of the things that I looked for. So I always wanted sons, and I always liked the names William, Paul, and Nicholas for these imaginary sons that I never ended up having. So when it came time to choose a first name, because I didn't really want to go having Bear be my first name, it doesn't sound very professional and, whatever, I chose the first name Nicholas because I didn't feel like a William or a Paul, those other names that I had chosen for children, but I really, really liked Nicholas. And furthermore, it was my grandfather's name, and I felt that it was a way that I could honor him. Often children, and especially firstborn sons, and I'm the firstborn, often they're named after relatives. So that's what led me to Nicholas and Bear. And those are the tips that I would give you for choosing your name as a trans person. Furthermore, there's really nothing wrong with experimenting with names. That's another one that I see a lot is people saying, I really felt like I was a whatever, and now it's not really feeling right anymore, and I really like this other name, but people have already gotten used to such and such. Well, it's your transition, it's your story, and it's something that you have to feel comfortable with. So if you want to, or if you feel like you need to experiment with names, or you start to feel like what you thought was your preferred name doesn't really work, there's nothing wrong with experimenting. And if people give you grief for it, well, guess what? It's your transition, it's your name, it's your identity. Get over it. People are going to give you grief about your transition anyway. They're going to give you grief about every step of everything you do. They're going to question everything you do. So let it go. When people give you grief about your name or whatever, that's fine. It's your transition, and trust me, you are much more, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but you are going through a much more stressful time than they are with your transition. Transitioning is not easy. And so when people tell you that it's really hard for them, just let them know how hard it is for you and move on. So that's it for this video for the Trans Day of Visibility. Loving my Transosaurus Rex t-shirt, and thanks for listening. Good luck with your transition. Good luck with choosing your name. Those are just some of the little things that I like to advise for people.